This program is designed to provide general information with regards to the subject matters covered. This information is given with the understanding that neither the hosts, guests, sponsors, or station are engaged in rendering any specific and personal, medical, financial, legal, counseling, professional service, or any advice. You should seek the services of competent professionals before applying or trying any suggested ideas.
Hello, and thank you for tuning in to A Sharp Outlook on K4HD Radio and Talk 4 TV. I am Angela Sharp, your host. Our armchair discussions with industry experts will give you the steps, tools, and information to be successful in business and to prepare you to be your best self. Hi, I'm Angela Sharp, and welcome to A Sharp Outlook. Today we're going to be talking about a very serious topic, and that is having the right type of insurance coverage so that in the event some disaster occurs, we don't have a mystery, we have a legacy. Many people are underprotected in the event of health issues, natural disaster, disability, and even death. The benefits of your insurance coverage should give you a peace of mind and provide much needed benefits to meet you at a time of vulnerability. So many don't understand insurance, and one thing, they end up talking to the wrong people that advise them, and they're not properly informed to meet those critical needs. Most people are not informed about having a will or a trust in the event of death. You should be thinking about leaving a legacy, not a mystery. If you are a business owner, your will and testament in the event of a disaster, disability, or even death should be a sound document that has been carefully thought out with a succession plan. Let me remind you, you have to file it at court so it can't be changed at the last minute. These are hard conversations, but unless you know how to fly to the next dimension, we're all going to have to face the reality of death. It's part of life. It's a difficult time, and your loved ones should know that arrangements have been made and they're not wondering about financial security. Hey, let's make a plan now. If you are a business owner, insurance is one of the benefits offered to attract talent. Employer insurance helps employees plan for the future, providing financial security and peace of mind, while strengthening your company's benefit plan to draw exceptional talent to the organization. Personal insurance from an employer-sponsored plan is wonderful and will probably cover the cost of the funeral and maybe some financial debts. There is more to the story, though. Knowing how to select the right plan can be very tricky. So our guest today, Eileen Marcio, is here to set the record straight and help you as our listeners get better prepared and better understanding about this industry and how to protect yourself and your family before a disaster happens. We try not to think about the negative things that can happen, but life, you know what? It happens. Whether we like it or not, the protection from it is knowledge and choices that we prevent the worst outcome. We want to prevent the worst outcome. We want to be informed. So today, Eileen Marcio, she's an independent associate and former life insurance agent for over 22 years. She has that much experience in this particular industry. And she's able to tell you exactly all the things that you're needing to be able to be prepared at that time or in the event of that, whether it's for a spouse, children, parents, or even business partners. It's a way to ensure that loved ones are cared for in the event of incapacitation or death. You never know when an accident or critical health issue will arise, and long-term care will be there to minimize the financial burden during this circumstance. Well, Eileen cares about those needs and is always informing people about getting that legacy established. Don't let the state take away everything you have worked for because you didn't prepare for the final stage of life. So listen to our expert today and find out what is available and what you need to do. So, Eileen, welcome.
Hey, how are you today?
I am doing great. How are you?
I am outstanding. I'm so honored to be here today.
Oh, well, I'm honored that you were able to join us and be with us today to talk about a very serious topic is having the right protection, the right coverage, whether you're an employer or business owner or just a part of the family and you have a spouse or parents or children, not being prepared for that last decision of life is really important, don't you think?
Absolutely. It's all about being prepared. I was a Girl Scout, and of course, you had to be prepared, right? But the thing is
Yeah.
that we need now more than ever to leave a legacy and not a mystery. I sit before you right now. I want to make sure I can make the record clear. I am not an attorney. I do not pretend to be an attorney anywhere, shape, form, or fashion. But I've had enough life happen to me and see life happen to others that I've become passionate about making sure that folks know what platforms are available so that they can leave that legacy instead of a mystery, have things in writing instead of people fighting at bedsides and gravesides and things that are just so unpleasant when we could have just been prepared.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And believe me, I have experienced some of those things. And so that's why I'm very passionate about it. Not having a will or a will getting changed at the last minute. That's heartbreaking, first off. And then you're trying to, lay your loved one to rest. And the whole time you're angry because someone did something that you didn't expect to happen. And
Absolutely.
then the battling, siblings should be able to join together and hug one another and comfort one another instead of bickering and arguing about what's left. That's just not no one that has left to go to the net. I always call it graduation. No one has graduated to the next dimension would be pleased with their children or their family members or their siblings fighting over material things. They would be unhappy. So I wanted us to be able to have a discussion to get people informed. And not only that, you know what, Eileen? You know, I didn't realize if you don't have like your will, file at the court, um, you have to end up going for probate. There's more fighting, and the state could end up taking your assets away. You know,
Absolutely.
so
Mhm.
how can they prevent those kinds of things? Tell us about it.
Okay, well, first of all, you want to have a conversation with an estate planning attorney that's going to be able to know what your needs are. And there's different platforms available to do that. I'm fond of a few. The thing is to get it in writing, right? And so there are all these different DIY things, do it yourselves, but you don't really want to do it yourself unless you're an attorney. And I have found a lot of attorneys don't even have their estate planning done. So that's why you want to link up with someone who may be able to, or not maybe, will be able to show you how to protect your assets, whether it's a trust or a will. If you're a business owner, I do a lot of business in San Antonio, Texas. And there's a woman who is an unimpeachable source. And at one of the events I was at, she said, without a shadow of a doubt that if you are a business owner or you own property and you do not have that business or your property in a will that is filed in the state, which costs a whole $5 to file it there, right? If
Mm-hmm.
it's not filed, the state of Texas can take your business from your family, can take
Oh.
your property from your family. As I said, I'm not an attorney. I live in New Jersey, so I don't know what the other states hold. But you
Mhm.
want to be able to have that conversation sooner than later because sometimes suddenly happens. I got a text message last night that had me in tears, Angela, because I had spoken to someone I'd never met in person because we met via Zoom. And so she called me so we can get her mom's will done. I was in Costa Rica at the time, so we rescheduled what to do for her mom. But then she had to go out of the country, so we redid her will. And then I got the text that she passed away.
Oh no.
I was devastated because
Yes.
she's 5 months older than me.
Mhm.
We're not supposed to leave here yet. There's so much. I'm still tender about that. Still
Mhm.
very tender about that. And just being on this call this morning, it is so important that we don't let procrastination get in the way. You know, I procrastinated. Someone came to my house 20 years ago, 23 years ago to be exact, and asked me if I wanted to get my will done. And I said, of course. Our daughters were young at the time. And so they sent me some paperwork, simple document to complete. It was 6 pages long, Angela. It took me 6 years to complete it
Oh,
because I procrastinated. No one showed me how
yeah.
to simplify, demystify that process. So I make it my business to work with everyday families and small business owners so they know what their options are, what platforms are available, so that they leave that legacy. Painful enough is that I'm sorry.
Oh no, go ahead. Yeah.
So my cousin had an amazing business. He was a pharmacist by trade, and he would go into the different nursing homes because here in Jersey, there's a organization that comes and checks every nursing home to make sure that their medication is right, their books are right. And so he would go to each one of them right when the survey was being done to make sure it was correct. He had a booming business. Then he
Mhm.
died unexpectedly. So the folks that were jealous of the business he built picked it clean, left nothing for his family. We're not building businesses for vultures to pick clean or for the state to take over. So you
Right.
want to have these conversations now, not later. And there's
Mhm.
so much more.
Yeah. You know, I had a situation that occurred. I had my own business. I was an entrepreneur in accounting, finance. And I had mentioned a few weeks ago about being in a head on car collision because I'd had my brakes fixed and they didn't, what is it, milk the
Calibrate.
air out or out of it. And I kept stepping on the brakes and nothing happened. And I had a head on collision. Well, before that happened, I had gotten a call from an insurance, agent. And because I had my own business, it's like, have you ever thought about having, coverage for yourself, so in the event of disability or death? And at that time, I'm feeling still young and springy and this, that, and the other. And I'm like, well, disability, that would be somebody that's old, not me.
Right.
And so I said, no, I don't need anything like that. And it was probably maybe 3 or 4 months after we had that conversation, I had that head-on collision.
My God.
And I was disabled. I couldn't walk. I couldn't even sit up. And for 9 months, I laid in a bed. And the music director of our prison ministry would come and pick me up. He was a city manager and take me for my therapy so that I could walk again, so I could sit up again, so that I could move again. But Eileen, because I wasn't prepared, I lost my condo. I lost my property. I lost my car because the car was totaled. And then when they went to, because I was going to file a lawsuit, it was kept at this car lot. The car disappeared.
Oh no.
So there was nothing. And there I was. And I had saw an ad in the paper of this nurse who was renting rooms, and I rented her bedroom, and she took care of me.
Wow.
And I didn't think I would ever be able to walk or move again, but thank God for
Yes.
Neil, who would take me to get my therapy, and people praying I'm well, and no, I don't have any residual effects. But I want everyone to know, you may be young, you may be springy, you may be able to dance for hours and hours, but you just never know what life is going to have on your path. and just get it done. Just please get it done, especially if you are the key person in your business and
Yes.
you are the one who does the majority of the work and you are the revenue earner in your business. Get that disability coverage, get that succession plan done,
Yes.
get all of that stuff filed because you don't want to lose everything you own because you didn't make the right choice at the right time. I thank God I was able to recover, but
Amen for
that was
that.
devastating. And at that time, I had had a contract with CBS to do a TV show,
Oh,
but that
wow.
head-on collision, I couldn't
That
do
way
anything.
too.
I couldn't work, and so, and if I had had the insurance, it would have, at least kept things going until I was able to get on my feet, even 9 months later. But I couldn't do anything. They kept contacting CBS, kept contacting me. I'm like, I can't walk, I can't sit up, I can't do anything. I'm sorry. And then I
Oh,
tried to get disability from the Social Security Department, from disability, and they told me no, you're declined. I'm like, why? Your hands still move. Are you kidding me?
God.
My hands are still, I'm laying flat on the bed and my hands are still moving. I can't see anything. I can't see the computer. And so what I couldn't believe, I said, I've been working and paying this money all these years and I can't get any when I need it. So,
Right. It's so cold-hearted.
yeah,
So
I don't want to get on
cold-hearted.
that. Yeah, I don't want to get on that soapbox. As I'm
Yeah,
no.
no, 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 no. We could be here till tomorrow talking about that. So we're
Yeah,
not going to
yes,
do that. But
absolutely. But
you are a living testimony to why it is important to be prepared. If you are a solopreneur, you are the only one that can do what you do. If you can't do it, who does it for? The folks that are already trusting and believing in you to get it done. And what if you can't? How are you paying your bills?
yeah,
Right? And disability insurance is so important. And, as it seems like an expense, but when you think of, is it an expense or is it an investment?
yes,
Right? Because we think about, I'm not the tax person, Angela is, but when you think about those kind of insurances, they are legitimate business tax write-offs.
yes.
So why are we sitting there splitting hairs, when we can make sure we have these things in place and also have those conversations? Angela mentioned the succession plan. Succession plans, what do you want to have happen with your business when you're not here? Churches do that when they know that a pastor is going to have to leave at some point, right? What do you have in place so that your business doesn't die with you? There's insurance for that too. Key person insurance, so that in the event that something happens to the main person,
Yeah.
how does the business thrive? Right? And so you need to have a team around you. You need an insurance team to make sure you have your errors and omissions so that if you do something wrong, they don't come after you
That's
hard.
true.
You want to make sure you have disability insurance in case, God forbid, I heard of a heart surgeon that was in a bad car accident and lost complete use of his dominant hand. This man was making close to 7 figures a year and lost everything because no one had that conversation with him. So take a look at what you're doing. What is your budget? And even if you don't really see it in there, I'm part of the D Free ministry with my church, have been for years, and it's a matter of looking to see where are your leaks. And one of the biggest leaks, DoorDash, the latest, greatest, newest shoes. And I'm guilty of the last one. I confess. I'm a shoe maven, love shoes. But the thing is that you just, take the time, have a conversation with an insurance agent that can address what would best suit your business, because they're willing to meet you where you are. But if you don't meet them at all, you may suffer a similar fate as Angela did, as that surgeon did. But thanks be to God, Angela's here talking to us right now, sitting up looking gorgeous. So, at the end of the day, we don't have any control over what we do, but we have control of how we're prepared.
Right.
If you don't have anything in place, it's going to be a scramble. And that's the same thing when it comes to estate planning. As I mentioned, in Texas, if you don't have your will in place or a trust in place and you die, your business essentially dies with you because it goes to the state. We don't build businesses for the state of Texas or anywhere else, right? We build it for the legacy that we want to leave for our families. And so you need to have that team. You need the insurance person. You need somebody that's going to do your bookkeeping, your accounting. So if there is an opportunity that there's going to be some money given out to small business owners to help them sustain, as what happened during the pandemic. If your
Mhm.
books were right, you didn't get it. Am I right, Angela?
That's correct.
So
That's
the other
correct.
part of your team is you need an accountant, a bookkeeper to make sure those things are correct. So
Mhm.
then you also need to have what's called a legal team. You need to have someone who's going to review your contracts, review your documents, to make sure that you're not signing over your whole being, whether it's personal or legal. You want
Mhm.
a personal or business. So you want to have a conversation with somebody that can actually be your de facto legal team, right? Now, big businesses have big budgets, so they can afford to have, millions of dollars on retainers. But everyday business owners like you and because
Mhm.
I don't have millions of dollars to have somebody waiting just in case.
Mhm.
The idea behind insurance isn't that you're paying this because it's a burden. You're paying it because it ensures that you will not suffer financially in the event that you pass away. Your
Right.
family's not suffering and your
There's a
business is
lot, yeah, there's a lot of misinformation about life insurance, wills, and trusts. Can you share some key points on each and help inform our audience so that they know?
okay.
'Cause I know most people, because I've heard them say it. Most people are like, I don't want to talk to insurance people. I don't want to talk, you know. But it is important. It really is important,
It
and you
is.
don't want to wait until a disaster happens to find out. Whoops, I should have done that. No, let's not whoop.
Absolutely.
Let's like, hey, I'm taken care of. I don't care. You know, that's what we need to be doing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So let's start with the insurance part first. I'm an
Hmm.
insurance agent. I'm a reluctant insurance agent because I don't like writing life insurance. I like doing the other things that I do. But I have folks in my circle, on my team, if you will, that are experts at meeting people where they are, making sure your business is taken care of. And if by chance you didn't have things in order and you died, I have folks that know how to work through probate with probate insurance and how to get things done. Because when you lose a loved one, it's bad enough you lost the loved one, then nobody knows what to do. So there's folks that are out there to do that. But insurance shouldn't be threatening. Insurance is not a one size fits all either. So I caution folks that don't, you wouldn't go to a grocery store that only sold mushrooms, would you? I know I wouldn't because I'm allergic to them. You want to make sure there's a variety of things so that something that something, if it's in a hybrid form, is there to meet your family's needs or meet your needs. Heavens forbid you find yourself with that diagnosis and the medication is $2,000 a month. That's not
Hmm.
in everybody's budget, right? And that's with insurance. You want to have something in place that allows you for that rainy day, that emergency situation. And most of the insurance agents that I know, at least in my circle of influence, are caring. We want to meet you where you are. If you only have $30 a month to work with right now, you got to start somewhere,
Hmm.
right? There are financial planners out there. Some of them are, have all the letters behind their name. And then some of them learned from experience and they have worked their magic through their knowledge and have helped others to do the same, how to pay off their homes, how to um, use the stock market by you. I mean, there are folks out there. You don't have to go to the folks that have the big flashing lights online or scream the
Hmm.
loudest on TV. You want to find someone that understands that you're nervous about this
Hmm.
and what do I need and what best will serve my family. Rule of thumb, if you're young, you want to have a larger term policy because that's when y'all haven't reached your peak financially yet, right? But there's a time and a place for all these different insurance. I'm not going to go deep into that, but you want to find the person that is going. I mean, if you need referrals, feel free to reach out to me. I've got some folks that I trust with my life, and I don't mind referring because I find that they are one in particular. I call him my goat. He's the greatest of all times because he knows. I just appreciate working with Mr. Carlton. He knows his stuff. You know, another friend of mine, not a financial planner by trade, but he has the soundest advice, and his bank account can show you that he practices what he preaches. So, you know, if you need to have people like that in your corner, not just the folks that send you an email, we can help double your money or triple your money, or we can help you get into real estate and help you make big deals. You don't want the flashing lights. You want someone who's going to meet you where you are. So in insurance, don't be intimidated by them. Maybe you might find something online, but you want to have a conversation with a professional that can best guide you as to what you need. Now, moving into wills and trusts, as I said before, I'm not an attorney. I don't pretend to be one anywhere, shape, form, and fashion. But I'm very passionate about making sure that I meet with the folks that aren't going into the paneled office to pay a price tag with a comma in it to get their estate planning done. Estate planning comes in so many different tiers to it, right? So with the will, you want to make sure that you designate who you want to distribute your assets.
Mm-hmm.
If you have children under the age of 18, you don't want the state deciding who's going to raise your babies. And for the grandparents on the line, you don't want your grandchildren left to an uncertain future either. So you want to make sure that if you are going to have a conversation with an estate planner, that the package they offer you includes a minor's trust for your babies under the age of 18. You want to make sure that it includes a medical and financial power of attorney. Who do you want to speak with the doctors if you're not able to? Who is that representative going to be? Then that person is in line with what your wishes are. And then when it comes to finances, my dad, God rest him, was the supreme check writer. That checkbook was pristinely balanced. So when he got ill, I was his financial power of attorney. And I personally don't balance checkbooks. So he's fighting with me on a ventilator about balancing his checkbook. So you want to pick the person who's going to follow through with your financial beliefs and writing checks, and that they have authorization to do so. These things need to be in writing, and they die when you die. So you want to have that conversation. And then when you consider that dementia is snatching up people left, right, and sideways, starting in their 50s, going up to their 90s, there's no respect of age with this horrible mind-altering disease. And so when you notice that you're going to go visit grandma, auntie, uncle, mom, or dad, and you go and you're sitting in the kitchen, you open the fridge and you see the shoes in there. And then you go and open the oven and the pocketbook's there. That's a sign that they might be moving towards diminished capacity. You want to have a conversation with them with a bona fide estate planner that can have the conversation about having that medical power of attorney in place, the financial power of attorney in place, so that when it gets to the point they can't make their own decisions, you're not paying thousands of dollars for guardianship. It's a hard conversation. I know this from personal experience, but it's a conversation that needs to be had, because the state doesn't know your family dynamic. So they're going to look and say, oh, this person lives next door to them. Let's make them the guardian. And I've seen it happen where the person next door is a crackhead. So they had crackhead Uncle Bobby assigned to be the guardian. Not a good thing. So while you still have that within their power to be able to make those decisions and have them in writing, it makes it so much easier. That's why we call it a love letter, because I've found, you know, in my how I operate, we call it a love letter because you're letting your family know you love them so much that you didn't want them fighting and feuding about what needed to happen in the event that you passed away. You know, I've read books where there's 3 sisters and one sister didn't have a good relationship with the father, so she wanted the $25,000 casket. The other sisters had a good relationship with them, and they were like, we're not paying $25,000 for a box that's going in the ground just because you're guilty. we're going to get the one that's going to look best, and we could use the rest of the money to do things we need to do. But there's a whole book about them fighting about this.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the time to be fighting. That's why we need to be writing.
Yeah.
So the will is important. It's a will package. The will determines determines what your wishes are. How do you want your assets to be distributed in the event that you're no longer here, right? Now, probate does come into fact. I have heard so many times that just because you're married doesn't mean automatically it goes directly to your spouse. If it is in your name, then it's going to have to be probated. If it's in the name of the decedent, it has to be probated, right? It could be easier, it could be hard. But the thing is that if there's nothing in writing at all, it's going to be hard, right? And so even with children, it's not automatic that, oh yeah, automatic is going to, certain states, you got to go through some stuff. So why chaos, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's a lot of information. I mean, I'm just thinking about the fact, you know, and especially seeing that the laws differ from state to state.
Yes.
You have to contact and find out, you know, what are the laws. I mean, I'm just thinking about someone who has minor children. So if you have minor children, you just need to have this written now, because to think that there may be a debate or even, you know, social services taking your children because you didn't leave a written statement as to who you wanted to be the guardian of your children and the guardian of the finances over the children. That's some critical stuff that, you know, the children might be taken away from the family and no one see them. That is really important. It's really important. And I want my audience to understand this is how critical this information is and how you really need to take it seriously, because your children, maybe if you're, you know, a guardian of your grandchildren, someone's going to be hurt. And like Eileen always says, it's a love letter. And you want to leave a legacy. You don't want people at the last minute trying to figure out, wow, this is a mystery. What do I do next? What do I do next? Exactly. You know what to do next because it's all spelled out and it's really important. How does a will differ from a trust, though? What are the benefits of a trust?
Okay, the will becomes public record. So when you pass away, it's filed. Anyone could look to see what you had, what you left behind. So that's why you want to be careful about what's worded in your will. You don't want personal identifiable information, bank accounts, social security numbers. You don't want that in there. Those need to be in a safe place so that your executor, executrix can access them to do what they need to do. So a will is most widely used when you don't have a lot of assets, right? Things that you need to keep out of probate. So the conundrum that I find, and it really, I do my best to not get angry about a lot of things, but I get angry when I have folks that live in their parents' basements, their grandparents' attics, and they're telling me they need a trust, right? You know, so as I said, I work within the parameters of different platforms to meet people where they are. And invariably, let me give you a quick story. About 8-10 years ago, one of the older ladies, we call them mothers in my church, I was talking to her and I asked her if she had a will. She said no. I said, okay, well, let's get together. You know, I know a way that we can get it done. I get to her house. Angela, she greeted me at the door and she said, oh, baby, I got a trust. I said, do you? What do you have in your trust? Do you have property out of this 1-bedroom senior apartment? She said, no. Do you own a business outside? Do you have stocks and bonds? She said, no. We walked into her apartment. There was a door that was closed. And I asked her, do you have diamonds and furs behind that door? She said, no, just my clothes and my cat. So I asked her, why do you have a trust? And she said she listens to a certain pundit that said that everybody needs a trust. So she and her 3 friends every Saturday listened to this person. So they went to an unscrupulous law firm in New Brunswick, New Jersey. And this man charged each one of them $3,500 for a leather-bound monstrosity with a poorly written will. That man made $14,000 off of 4 sweet octogenarians that only needed a will.
Oh my goodness.
So you want to have the conversation with an attorney, an estate planning attorney that sees what your assets are. So
Mm-hmm.
have an articulate conversation with you about the plethora of different trusts that are available and what might best suit you.
Mm.
Instead of Angela, a while back, I was going to meet with somebody to talk about the different platforms, and she said, "Oh, I can't meet with you. I need a trust." I'm like, "Really? Why do you need a trust?" So she sends me a TikTok video.
Oh gosh.
I've got shoes older than this kid that was talking about why everybody needs a trust. And I was so angry. I called my business coach up and I said, "Listen, you've got to show me how to do a TikTok so I can respond to this nonsense." It was more work than I was willing to involve myself in, so it didn't get done. But we're being inundated with
Mm-hmm.
everybody needs a trust. And if you need a
Right.
trust, by all means, make sure you get it. I work with a lovely organization of trust creators, trust attorneys in the DMV, DC, Maryland, Virginia area, but they're nationwide. And I work with other platforms that do trust. I mean, if you, it's just a matter of having the conversation and being met where you are so that
Mm-hmm.
you can leave your legacy. No one at all should be priced out of leaving a legacy.
Right. And that's why I wanted to have this topic, because I had seen some of these TikToks and had seen some of these, podcasts saying everybody needs to have a trust. And I thought these people are taking advantage of those who don't even have. And this just misinformation, disinformation, and it's a write out. It's a scam. I'm
Yes,
telling you, it's a scam, and shame on you for taking advantage of elderly people who
yes.
have little, and you're going to take the what's left.
$3,500 each from
It's
each of them
shameful.
for a leather-bound monstrosity with
Yeah,
a poorly
it's
written.
it's
I
it's
looked at this. I'm
shameful.
like, pretty leather. What is this?
Mm-hmm.
This is a nice gray leather. Yeah.
Yeah, and because they didn't get advice from an attorney to understand what really is in each
Right.
one of them, you know, they were taken advantage of,
Right. The
and the
sad thing is they went
family
to an attorney
didn't
who should
realize
have
it.
told them right. But there's so
Mhm.
many attorneys. I guess in all fairness, tough times, people just decide they're going to do things that's not the right way. And that
Yeah.
attorney was so egregious in how he treated these women. And so, I do a Zoom every Sunday at 3 o'clock
Mhm.
Eastern Standard, 2 o'clock Central Standard, 1 o'clock Mountain Standard, noon Pacific. And I just look to simplify and demystify the process of leaving that legacy,
Mhm.
and the importance of having something in place for your children, your grandchildren. I'm a grandmother, and I'm very, very, my daughter and son-in-law have this in place because I don't want to have no problems ending up in an orange jumpsuit when my favorite color is purple because it wasn't in writing and now I had to get involved with some unpleasant business with the other grandma. We don't want
Mhm.
that. We
Right.
don't want our children left to an uncertain future.
Yes, absolutely. Something else that I saw that a will goes into effect, does not go into effect until death, but a trust is effective immediately when it is signed and it is funded. So someone has a trust, they have a business, they have a lot of assets, they may have rental property. We're talking about people who have something that's going to keep growing and generating income over periods of time or for a long period of time. And so, it goes in effect immediately, and you'd better spell it out correctly, or because you won't be able to get
Yeah,
funds out
that's
of
not
it.
a DIY project. And
Right,
I've had
right.
people call me that they did one online and then
Oh,
they moved. And when they found out when they moved that when you do your estate planning in one state and you move to another state, the surrogate rules and probate rules are different in each state. So you need to change your will to match the state that you're in. A will does not take effect until you have passed away. The powers of attorney die when you die. That's when, who you picked as your representative, executor, executrix gets the letters of testamentary to do what they need to do. The trust is a living organism, basically. Now, if it's a revocable trust, you can move things in and out of it. If it's irrevocable, then there's a lot more to deal with, and that's why they cost more. I'm not at liberty to really go in depth about trusts, but the thing is, if you need a trust, definitely have a conversation with an estate planning attorney, but make sure that you have what assets you're looking to protect there, so that they can assuage which is the best way to go about this.
Right.
And sometimes you might not even want to take that as, just like you get a diagnosis with the doctor, you might want a second opinion. If you have a lot of assets, I know a gentleman in Arizona that is amazing at large estates and trusts, right? But if you're an everyday person, have the conversation, because there may be rules in your state that may protect that property. But as I said, I'm not an attorney, so you would need to speak with an estate attorney in your state that knows what needs to happen with that property, so it doesn't end up in probate and ultimately a sheriff's sale.
Now, do these agents? I guess I know about life insurance agents, but when you're talking about someone who's writing up, wills and trust, do they need to have specific licensing or credentials?
Well, to be honest with you, there are folks that just do it on the fly. I don't recommend that, because if something goes left, they don't have the credentials to try to at least correct it, right? So most states, I know for a fact, the state of Virginia requires that your will is prepared by an attorney. The state of New York being New York, they're special. In New York, an attorney has to notarize your will. They go through the will with you to make sure you understand it, and an attorney has to notarize it. Here in Jersey, it doesn't have to be an attorney. But, I just caution everyone, this is not like trying to figure out how to change the wallpaper in your bathroom. Right. That's a DIY project. Estate planning is not a DIY project. And there are different platforms that are available, whether you're just starting out, just so you can have the thing in place to protect your children. If you're just starting out in business, to be able to have, how do I put this team together so that somebody doesn't run into what happened to you with that dreadful car accident, but you recovered, but not everyone does. Right. And the financial devastation could put folks not just in depression, but in a grave because of how heavy the burden is. So if you have an opportunity to speak with a professional to be able to show you that, no, you can't afford the $1 million policy right now, but at least let's get you a $200,000 policy so that at least you have that in place. Right. So I'm a big proponent of making sure you protect the front and back end of your business, and make sure your family, whether they're your seasoned family members, grandma, grandpa, auntie, uncle, or if they are the littlest ones who have no say in the matter, that they're not left to an uncertain future. We hear about elder abuse. We don't want that to happen. Right. We don't want to pay thousands of dollars for the courts to decide who is going to take care of grandma, grandpa, auntie, uncle, or heaven forbid you or I. So that's why, and I'm so passionate about consulting with people, and then looking to see which of the platforms that I work with fits best for them.
Right. One of the things I'd like to mention about someone getting a trust, I know of an aunt that had a trust, and even one of my uncles, they both had a trust, and they got to the point where they were incapacitated. Now, the trustee was supposed to manage everything and knew who the beneficiaries were from the trust and this, that, and the other. but there was no family member that was doing any oversight.
Oh no.
Somewhere along the line, they had that aunt and uncle change it to make that administrator, that trustee, the beneficiary. That
Oh my
happened to
God.
an aunt and an uncle. And
Oh my, I've heard stories like that.
Court, but because, we hadn't, we lived out of state and we weren't able to visit on a regular basis. He came up with all these reasons why, that we should not be the beneficiaries of the estate that he had. And we lost the case.
Oh my God.
And I
There are
said,
folks that are
there needs
so
to be
poor.
there needs to be an administrator, a group of family members that are administrators, oversight over the trustee, also to make sure,
Checks
'cause
and
you
balances.
never know. You need to have
Checks and
checks and
balances.
balances. Yes. So
Right.
I wanted
That's
to,
horrifying.
yeah, it was terrible. It just broke my heart that someone.
Yeah, and
was
there
able
are
to
folks
do
that do
that.
that with wills. There are folks that do that with financial power of attorney. That's why you don't want it to be DIY. And
Right.
then I heard of a case in Arizona. Well, actually, it's in Wisconsin. My friend is from Arizona. Her dad had a rather large estate, a farm, and lots of land, and all this other good stuff. So he put his oldest daughter as the trustee over the trust. She has dementia. Now, nowhere is it written in there, and there was no oversight because she's had onset. Now she has full-blown dementia. Now her husband, who actually owes the estate money because of some kind of side land deal, I don't know all the facts, but the point I wanted to make is that now the husband, who has a vested interest in making sure that nobody else gets any money, is now taking over for his wife with dementia. That's not how the trust was written.
Right.
So I knew of an organization that was able to work with her from Arizona and actually do we'll call it a review, an accounting of the estate. And they were able to, they were able to do what was necessary to get the right person in place, because you don't want that to happen. You don't want the wrong person handling things. That's why while you have control, exercise that control.
So, Eileen, I know everybody definitely has received the wonderful information that you have given. How can they get in touch with you, just in case they have some questions or they trust you to refer them to the right source? How can they get in touch with you?
Well, currently my website is under construction, so I'm old school. Okay, I'm a card-carrying dinosaur. So I prefer either text me and just say, did you saw me on the show and you needed this, that, or you wanted to have a consultation. And easiest way to text me is my phone number, 908-209-7498. I could put that in the chat. Or you can email me at emmarcial@icloud.com. So I'm going to put both of those in the chat. And if you just reach out to me and you let me know how you reached me, I would be happy and honored to have a discussion with you, so that if one of our platforms can help, let's get it done. If it can't help, I've got other folks that can help you get this done. Whether it's a succession plan, the minors trust, getting out of not having to deal with guardianship, probate. We have a plethora of different platforms because I'm passionate about making sure that we leave legacies instead of mysteries. And the sad point is, less than 30% of all families have this in place. And it's my personal mission, whether it's platform A, B, C, D, E, F, or G, that we're going to move that number from less than 30% of families protected, having a love letter in place, to at least 50%, one family at a time, perhaps starting with yours. So let me put the information in the chat.
Well, I think even beyond that, we should have more than 50%. This is something that should be at a minimum.
100%, but I figured let me start at least with that, so we can move. Because people get overwhelmed when you put big goals out for them.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to start with that. Then we're going to 75. Well, we're cruising toward 100.
Right. Well, we'll just keep having conversations about it and keep informing people. I think a lot of the times, because, people always want to put this off because they don't want to face the realities of life. Life is life. It's not going to stop being life. Now, the thing is to be able to navigate life and protect yourself. That's what is important. And this is why we're having this conversation, is so that you can, go ahead and make the right decisions. Yes. And I know, like I said, from my own experiences, that this was very important to me to inform people, especially after I had seen some of these TikToks about telling everybody that they needed a trust, knowing what the cost of trust are.
Right,
I knew that was not accurate. And people get so wound up into these little TikToks, and these people are talking so fast and blurbing out all. And first off, some of these things you have to do within a state itself. You just can't be, having someone in New Jersey taking care of your business because they have to be licensed in the state that you're in or something like that.
There's so much.
There's a lot of things and they don't know. You don't know what you don't know. But when you're talking about financial things, you need to be able to sit across the table and see them in their eyes and know that they are doing right by you and taking care of your business. But don't be doing business on TikTok, please.
Right.
Of course, I use TikTok.
Funny. I can count how many TikToks I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I don't go on there because I was on Facebook one night, and next thing I knew, it was 3 hours later. I don't have time for rabbit holes.
Yeah.
I just don't have time for things like that. But it's just so important. Thank you so very much for inviting me to be part of this conversation and the Sharp Outlook. Because these are conversations that people are scared of, and you need to be able to have a conversation with someone who's going to be able to simplify, demystify that process,
right?
And put you at ease,
right? Well, I have really enjoyed this conversation, and I'm hoping that the audience understands and can take this to heart and apply this information to their life. Don't wait till it's too late and you end up losing everything. Don't wait until it's too late and your children and grandchildren or siblings, are suffering. We need to make decisions when decisions are presented. Nothing happens as a coincidence. So those that are listening, contact someone today. Contact Eileen and get a referral. But let's take care of business before life throws us a curveball. Okay. Thank you so much, Eileen, for being here.
Thank you for having me.
I really enjoyed the conversation, and I learned some new things too. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And I'm so glad that accident did not take you out. So it's such a blessing to know you.
Yes. So everyone, I appreciate you joining A Sharp Outlook, and join us again next Monday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, 8 a.m. Pacific Time. And whatever you do, stay informed. I want to thank you for joining us on A Sharp Outlook. We have been informed and energized to take the next steps. We have posted links to websites and videos to learn more on today's topic. Please join us again next week for another thought-provoking conversation right here on K4 HD Radio and Talk 4 TV. Listen to the podcast on all the podcast apps. And until next week, stay informed.